Your soulmate shared their real feelings about you in secret. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because for a very long time, your soulmate believed certain feelings would simply fade away. They believed time would distract them. They believed life would move forward. They believed the thoughts would become less important. Yet something unexpected happened. The feelings remained. Not only remained. They grew stronger. And listen to this. At first, they didn't recognize what was happening. Life was busy. Responsibilities filled their days. Goals occupied their attention. The future demanded focus. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed familiar. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet realization was slowly forming. A realization they didn't fully understand. A realization they couldn't explain. Because your heart needs this right now, because some emotions develop gradually before we finally recognize their importance. Your soulmate was beginning to recognize theirs. And listen to this. The change didn't happen all at once. There was no dramatic moment. No life-changing event. No single conversation that suddenly transformed everything. Instead, it happened through countless small moments. Small memories. Small thoughts. Small realizations. Each one adding another piece to the picture. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful feelings are often built from many small moments rather than one large one. Your soulmate was slowly assembling that picture. And listen to this. One day they noticed something strange. Certain memories seemed easier to remember than others. Not because they were extraordinary. Not because they were dramatic. Because they felt meaningful. A conversation. A shared laugh. A moment of understanding. A simple interaction that stayed in their mind much longer than expected. Because your heart needs this right now, because the memories that remain often reveal what matters most. Your soulmate was beginning to notice what remained. And listen to this. At first they dismissed it. Everyone remembers things. Everyone reflects occasionally. Everyone revisits old moments from time to time. Yet the pattern continued. The same memories returned. The same feelings returned. The same thoughts returned. Again and again. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine emotions rarely disappear when they carry real meaning. Your soulmate couldn't ignore that meaning forever. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more another realization emerged. The moments they remembered most weren't necessarily the biggest moments. They weren't grand events. They weren't perfect experiences. Instead, they were often simple moments. Moments that felt genuine. Moments that felt real. Moments that created a feeling of connection. Because your heart needs this right now, because authenticity often creates stronger memories than perfection. Your soulmate was realizing that. And listen to this. As the days passed, they found themselves thinking differently. They started paying attention to how certain thoughts affected them. How certain memories changed their mood. How certain people seemed to occupy a unique place in their heart. And slowly, a question appeared. A question they had never seriously asked before. The question was, why does this feel different? Because your heart needs this right now, because important questions often lead us toward important truths. Your soulmate was moving toward one. And listen to this. The answer didn't arrive immediately. At first there was uncertainty, confusion, curiosity, a desire to understand. Yet the more they reflected, the clearer everything became. The feelings weren't random. The memories weren't random. The connection wasn't random. There was a reason those thoughts kept returning. Because your heart needs this right now, because repeated thoughts often point toward unresolved emotions. Your soulmate was beginning to understand those emotions. And listen to this. One evening, while sitting quietly, they found themselves reflecting on the people who had truly impacted their life. The people they remembered most. The people who helped shape their journey. The people who left lasting impressions. And suddenly they noticed something surprising. Not everyone leaves the same kind of mark. Some people become memories. Others become part of your story. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections often influence us more deeply than we realize. Your soulmate was beginning to recognize that influence. And listen to this. The realization felt both comforting and overwhelming. Comforting because it explained so much. Overwhelming because it revealed something they hadn't fully acknowledged before. Certain feelings had become important. Certain thoughts had become meaningful. Certain connections had become impossible to overlook. Because your heart needs this right now, because honesty becomes unavoidable once understanding arrives. Your soulmate was approaching that honesty. And listen to this. The deeper they reflected, the more they noticed another truth. The feelings weren't built on fantasy. They weren't built on unrealistic expectations. They weren't built on imagination. They were built on appreciation, respect, admiration, understanding. The kind of emotions that develop slowly and naturally over time. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest feelings are often rooted in genuine appreciation. Your soulmate was discovering that appreciation. And listen to this. For a while, they tried to convince themselves it wasn't important. That they were overthinking. That they were imagining things. That the feelings would eventually fade. Yet every attempt to dismiss them seemed to have the opposite effect. The feelings remained. The thoughts remained. The appreciation remained. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine emotions tend to persist when they are based on something real. Your soulmate was beginning to accept that reality. And listen to this. Then came the moment that changed everything. Not a dramatic moment. Not a public moment. A private moment. A quiet moment of honesty. The moment they finally admitted something to themselves. Something they had been avoiding for far too long. The admission was simple. Yet powerful. These feelings matter more than I realized. The moment that truth appeared, everything suddenly made sense. The memories. The thoughts. The reflections. The emotions. All of it connected. Because your heart needs this right now, because clarity often arrives the moment we stop denying what we already know. Your soulmate was finally seeing clearly. And listen to this. The realization didn't answer every question. It didn't remove every uncertainty. It didn't make the future predictable. But it did provide something valuable. Honesty. The honesty to recognize what had been growing quietly inside their heart for a very long time. And once that honesty arrived, it became impossible to ignore. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after the first realization appeared, your soulmate tried to push it aside. They told themselves it wasn't important. They told themselves they were simply thinking too much. They told themselves life would become busy again and the feeling would disappear. But it didn't. And listen to this. The more they tried to ignore it, the more often it returned. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Patiently. Like a truth waiting to be acknowledged. Like a lesson waiting to be understood. Because your heart needs this right now, because some emotions become stronger when we stop pretending they don't exist. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that. And listen to this. Days passed. Life continued moving forward. Responsibilities remained. Goals remained. Schedules remained. Everything looked the same from the outside. Yet inside, something had changed. A growing awareness. A growing curiosity. A growing desire to understand why certain thoughts seemed impossible to forget. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding begins with curiosity. Your soulmate was becoming curious. And listen to this. The memories continued returning. Not only the big moments. Not only the emotional moments. The small moments. The ordinary moments. The moments that seemed insignificant at the time. A conversation. A laugh. A thoughtful gesture. A moment of understanding. A feeling of being genuinely seen. Because your heart needs this right now, because the simplest moments often become the most meaningful. Your soulmate was realizing that. And listen to this. One evening, while reflecting on everything that had been occupying their mind, they asked themselves a question. A question they had avoided for a very long time. The question was, why do these thoughts still matter so much? At first, they didn't have an answer. Only silence. Only reflection. Only the feeling that something important was waiting beneath the surface. Because your heart needs this right now, because honest questions often lead to honest discoveries. Your soulmate was about to make one. And listen to this. As they continued reflecting, they noticed something surprising. The thoughts weren't based on fantasy. They weren't based on unrealistic expectations. They weren't based on wishful thinking. Instead, they were based on something much simpler. Appreciation. Genuine appreciation. The kind that develops naturally over time. The kind that cannot be forced. The kind that grows quietly until it becomes impossible to ignore. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine appreciation often becomes the foundation of deeper emotions. Your soulmate was beginning to recognize that foundation. And listen to this. The realization continued growing. Every reflection seemed to point toward the same conclusion. Every memory seemed connected to the same feeling. Every thought seemed leading toward the same truth. The connection mattered. More than they initially realized. More than they wanted to admit. More than they expected. Because your heart needs this right now, because some truths become obvious only after we stop resisting them. Your soulmate was slowly stopping that resistance. And listen to this. The deeper they reflected, the more they understood another important lesson. Meaningful feelings rarely arrive suddenly. They are usually built over time. Built through trust. Built through understanding. Built through shared moments. Built through appreciation. One small moment at a time. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest emotional connections are often built gradually. Your soulmate was finally seeing the process clearly. And listen to this. For a while, they continued questioning themselves. Wondering if they were exaggerating. Wondering if they were misinterpreting their feelings. Wondering if they were reading too much into things. Yet every attempt to dismiss the truth seemed weaker than the truth itself. Because your heart needs this right now, because reality eventually becomes stronger than doubt. Your soulmate was approaching that reality. And listen to this. Then another realization appeared. A realization that immediately changed everything. The realization was: the reason these feelings remain is because they are genuine. The moment those words appeared, something shifted. The confusion softened. The uncertainty eased. The endless questioning finally slowed down. Because suddenly everything made sense. The memories. The appreciation. The thoughts. The emotions. All of it connected. Because your heart needs this right now, because clarity arrives when we finally name what we've been feeling. Your soulmate was beginning to find clarity. And listen to this. The truth they had been avoiding wasn't complicated. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming. It was honest. The connection had become meaningful. The appreciation had become significant. The feelings had become real. And real things don't disappear simply because we ignore them. Because your heart needs this right now, because authenticity has a way of revealing itself eventually. Your soulmate could no longer avoid it. And listen to this. For the first time, they allowed themselves to stop fighting the truth. Stop questioning every feeling. Stop dismissing every thought. Instead, they simply acknowledged what their heart had been trying to tell them all along. Some people leave a deeper impact than expected. Some connections become more meaningful than expected. Some feelings become stronger than expected. And sometimes the most important step is simply admitting that truth. Because your heart needs this right now, because honesty creates peace where confusion once existed. Your soulmate was finally finding that peace. And listen to this. The secret they admitted to themselves wasn't a dramatic confession. It was a quiet realization. A realization powerful enough to change the way they saw everything. The realization was: This connection has become one of the most meaningful parts of my story. The moment that truth settled into place, every unanswered question suddenly felt less important. Because they finally understood what their heart had been trying to say all along. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after all the reflection, after all the questions, after all the attempts to ignore what was happening inside their heart, your soulmate finally reached a point where pretending became impossible. Not because someone forced them to be honest. Not because circumstances demanded an answer. Because the truth had become too clear to ignore. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed feelings were supposed to make immediate sense. They believed emotions arrived with certainty. They believed important realizations happened suddenly. Yet what they experienced was completely different. Their understanding arrived slowly. Quietly. One realization at a time. Because your heart needs this right now, because the deepest feelings often reveal themselves gradually. Your soulmate was discovering that. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more they noticed a pattern. Whenever they thought about their future, certain thoughts appeared. Whenever they remembered meaningful moments, certain memories appeared. Whenever they considered the people who truly mattered, the same connection appeared. Again. And again. And again. Because your heart needs this right now, because repeated thoughts often point toward meaningful truths. Your soulmate was beginning to recognize that truth. And listen to this. At first, they questioned everything. Was it appreciation? Was it admiration? Was it gratitude? Was it simply familiarity? The more they searched for answers, the more complicated everything seemed. Until one day they stopped analyzing. Stopped overthinking. Stopped trying to explain every emotion. And simply paid attention to what they felt. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes understanding begins when analysis ends. Your soulmate finally stopped analyzing. And listen to this. The moment they stopped fighting their feelings, something surprising happened. Everything became clearer. The confusion started fading. The uncertainty started fading. The endless questions started fading. Because beneath all those questions, one simple truth remained. The connection mattered. Deeply. Genuinely. Honestly. Because your heart needs this right now, because truth often feels simpler than doubt. Your soulmate was finally experiencing that simplicity. And listen to this. As they looked back over previous months, they noticed something remarkable. Many of their favorite memories shared a common thread. A common feeling. A common emotional significance. The memories weren't necessarily dramatic. They weren't necessarily life-changing. They were meaningful. And meaning is difficult to replace. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful moments often become the foundation of meaningful feelings. Your soulmate was realizing that foundation had been growing for a long time. And listen to this. The realization continued growing stronger. Every conversation seemed more valuable in hindsight. Every shared moment seemed richer. Every memory seemed brighter. Not because the past had changed. Because their perspective had changed. And perspective changes everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often transforms ordinary memories into extraordinary ones. Your soulmate was experiencing that transformation. And listen to this. For the first time, they stopped asking, "What exactly am I feeling?" and started asking, "Why am I afraid to admit it?" The question surprised them. Because suddenly they realized the problem wasn't confusion. The problem was vulnerability. Acknowledging meaningful feelings requires courage. Acknowledging emotional truth requires courage. Admitting someone matters requires courage. Because your heart needs this right now, because honesty often feels risky when emotions are real. Your soulmate understood that risk. And listen to this. Yet despite every hesitation, the truth remained. No matter how many times they questioned it. No matter how many times they examined it. No matter how many times they tried to dismiss it. The feelings stayed. Because genuine emotions don't disappear simply because we doubt them. Your soulmate was finally accepting that reality. And listen to this. One quiet night, while reflecting on everything they had learned, they noticed another truth. The strongest connections aren't always built through dramatic events. Sometimes they're built through consistency. Through understanding. Through trust. Through countless small moments that gradually become unforgettable. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most important bonds are often built one moment at a time. Your soulmate was seeing those moments clearly. And listen to this. The realization became impossible to ignore. The connection wasn't important because it was perfect. It was important because it was meaningful. Because it felt genuine. Because it brought value into their life. Because it created memories worth holding on to. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning matters far more than perfection. Your soulmate finally understood that. And listen to this. As the truth settled deeper into their heart, they stopped trying to find reasons to dismiss it. Instead, they started appreciating it. Appreciating the memories. Appreciating the lessons. Appreciating the emotional significance. Appreciating the connection itself. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often follows understanding. Your soulmate was becoming grateful. And listen to this. Then came the realization that changed everything. The realization they could no longer hide from themselves. The realization that connected every memory, every reflection, and every feeling. The realization was, these feelings have become part of who I am. The moment those words appeared, everything made sense. The thoughts. The emotions. The memories. The appreciation. All of it finally connected. Because your heart needs this right now, because clarity arrives when we stop running from the truth. Your soulmate had finally stopped running. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they felt at peace. Not because every question had been answered. Not because uncertainty disappeared. Because honesty arrived. And honesty created clarity. The clarity revealed appreciation. The appreciation revealed meaning. The meaning revealed truth. Because your heart needs this right now, because truth has a way of simplifying everything. Your soulmate was finally seeing that truth clearly. And now they know there is only one final realization left to make. One final truth that brings every feeling, every memory, and every lesson together. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after every reflection, after every memory that refused to fade, after every question they asked themselves, after every attempt to ignore what was happening inside their heart, your soulmate finally arrived at the truth. Not a dramatic truth. Not a shocking secret. A quiet truth. A deeply personal truth. A truth that had been growing stronger for a very long time. And listen to this. For months, they believed their feelings were temporary. They believed time would change things. They believed distance would change things. They believed life would distract them. Yet every time they thought the feelings would disappear, the opposite happened. The connection felt stronger. The appreciation felt deeper. The memories felt more meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine emotions often grow stronger when they are rooted in something real. Your soulmate was beginning to understand just how real those feelings had become. And listen to this. As they reflected on everything, they realized something important. The strongest emotions are rarely built overnight. They are built through moments. Through understanding. Through trust. Through consistency. Through countless experiences that slowly become part of who we are. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections are often created one small moment at a time. Your soulmate could finally see every one of those moments. And listen to this. They remembered conversations that stayed with them. Moments that made them smile unexpectedly. Times when they felt understood. Times when they felt appreciated. Times when life felt lighter simply because of a meaningful connection. Those moments seemed small at first. Yet looking back, they realized those moments had quietly changed them. Because your heart needs this right now, because the experiences that shape us most are often the ones we overlook while they're happening. Your soulmate finally recognized their impact. And listen to this. For the first time, they stopped questioning their emotions. Stopped analyzing every feeling. Stopped looking for reasons to dismiss what they already knew. Instead, they simply accepted the truth. Accepted the appreciation. Accepted the gratitude. Accepted the emotional significance. Because your heart needs this right now, because acceptance creates peace where confusion once existed. Your soulmate was finally feeling that peace. And listen to this. As the truth settled deeper into their heart, they noticed another realization. A powerful realization. A realization that immediately changed the way they viewed everything. The realization was: some people enter our lives and leave memories. Others leave a lasting impact on who we become. The moment those words appeared, everything suddenly made sense. The thoughts. The reflections. The emotions. The appreciation. All of it connected. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often arrives when we finally see the bigger picture. Your soulmate was finally seeing that picture. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more grateful they became. Not because everything had been perfect. Not because life had been easy. Because meaningful connections are rare. Because genuine understanding is rare. Because finding someone who leaves a lasting impression is rare. And rarity creates value. Because your heart needs this right now, because we often appreciate things most once we recognize how uncommon they truly are. Your soulmate had reached that realization. And listen to this. Then came the truth they had been avoiding. The truth they had been slowly moving toward throughout every reflection. The truth they could no longer hide from themselves. The truth was, this connection means far more to me than I ever expected. The moment they admitted that, something changed. The uncertainty softened. The confusion disappeared. The endless questioning came to an end. Because honesty had finally replaced doubt. Because your heart needs this right now, because honesty creates clarity. Your soulmate was finally experiencing that clarity. And listen to this. The feelings they secretly shared weren't based on fantasy. They weren't based on assumptions. They weren't based on wishful thinking. They were built on real experiences. Real appreciation. Real admiration. Real gratitude. The kind of feelings that develop naturally when someone becomes an important part of your story. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine emotions are often rooted in genuine experiences. Your soulmate understood that now. And listen to this. As they looked toward the future, one final thought remained. A thought they knew they would remember for a very long time. The thought was, some connections deserve to be appreciated, not because they're perfect, but because they're meaningful. The moment that realization settled into place, everything felt different. The memories felt brighter. The appreciation felt stronger. The connection felt clearer. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms the way we see the people who matter most. Your soulmate had discovered that gratitude. And listen to this. The secret message their heart had been trying to reveal all along wasn't complicated. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't impossible to understand. It was simple. It was honest. It was real. The message was, you have left a deeper impact on my life than I ever realized. And once that truth was acknowledged, it became impossible to ignore. Because some feelings grow quietly. Some connections deepen gradually. And some people become meaningful in ways we don't fully understand until we finally stop and reflect.